Today's major immigration policy change is being both celebrated and criticized. It'll let some illegal immigrants stay in the U.S., and our next guest says President Obama abused his executive power with this policy. Bob Dane is a spokesman for the Federation for American Immigration Reform. And Bob, great to have you. Welcome to Evening Express.
Good. Good to be here.
Now, Bob, we spoke to a young woman in the last hour who talked about how the immigration policy affects her. I want to play part of her interview for you, and then I want to get your reaction to this. Let's take a look.
It's a horrible feeling because pretty much I gave everything here. I have everything here. And then to tell me that I have to leave, it's a bad feeling.
Has the government, when you've talked to them, when you've had any conversations with anybody about this, have they responded to your fears and your concerns and what you may be facing?
Honestly, no, because I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one going through this. I'm just the only one that's actually speaking up for this.
There's an estimated 800,000 individuals in her same situation. And when you come forward and speak, you reveal this, your life, and you put in danger other individuals. So it's very brave and very courageous of Paula to have the strength for her and her family to come forward.
What other dreams do you have here as an American citizen, if you can stay here and live here and be here?
I actually want to go to college. I actually want to be a teacher, a gym teacher for elementary kids. That's my dream. That's what I want to do.
Now, Bob, let me ask you about this. The announcement today would have the potential of keeping someone like Paula here in the country. She came here when she was very young. She got into a car accident. Turns out that she didn't have her status up to date, so now she gets deported back to a country that she barely knows. What do you say to someone like her if you don't want a policy like President Obama is suggesting in place?
You know, the immigration always looks very favorable from an individual standpoint. But remember, immigration policy, it's a social, domestic and discretionary policy designed to serve the broad national interest. There are two problems that we see today. One is how this DREAM Act was put into place, and second, the consequence of the DREAM Act. By the way, notice with great fascination, this is not just kids. You can be up to the age of 30 and take advantage of the new amnesty under the Obama edict. That is important because statistically, the vast majority of 13 million illegal aliens in the United States are under the age of 30. So this is 3/4 of the way to that broad, massive illegal alien amnesty bill that Obama has wanted from day one. So let's keep in mind, this is not just kids. These are adults who have been residing in the U.S. for a long time and had no right to do that.
Well, Bob Clark here, let's talk about this for a second, because from a practical matter, what are you going to do? Are you going to walk like 10, 12 million people to the border with guns on them? I mean, that's the thing with this, is that when you drill down to how many people we're talking about here, and then the confusing situation like with this young lady's family, she's got two siblings that were born in the United States and are citizens, other family members that are not. It is such a messy thing, and how do you turn that around and at the same time express some real humanity with these people, or do you not even bother with that part?
Well, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
How do you avoid, once you provide an amnesty, it simply encourages more and more. So the question is, what do you do with these kids here now? But what do you do with the second round of kids who come in, incentivized by this massive illegal alien amnesty, and the round after that, and the round after that? If America, in fact, has...
Can I say this, Steve? You make a very valid point. It's one that I made last hour. The problem with being humane is that you say to others, okay, green light, it's time to come in. But what do you do with all these people? Because are you going to march them to the border? I mean, really, as a practical matter, what do you do with the fact that we didn't have good border defenses in the United States? We ended up with so many millions of people here. What happens to them now, realistically?
Attrition through enforcement. Look, all too often, we talk about the immigration debate on one end of the spectrum or the other. Round everyone up and mass deportation. We don't espouse that. That's rather jackbooted. That is not to say, however, you don't detain and remove people as they're identified. The other end of the spectrum is massive amnesty. That simply rewards illegal behavior. It encourages more, and it's certainly fundamentally wrong, to vast numbers of legal immigrants who come here and play by the rules. The problem with this DREAM Act today is not only that it is, in fact, an amnesty, but this president declared unilaterally this afternoon that the United States of America has a brand new immigration policy in place. He usurped the congressional authority to make laws and to regulate immigration, and he did not give Americans, who are the true stakeholders in what happens with our immigration policy in America, any say in the matter. Where are the limits to executive power if he can have an edict in this area? It's alarming.
Let me jump in on you there. Let me jump in on you there with a couple of things. First of all, the president and the director of Homeland Security both jumped in today and said this is not an amnesty, this is not an immunity. The other thing is, to your point a little bit there, he does have the right to issue executive orders, and that's part of what he's doing here. But I want to ask you another question. So this policy applies to people who are in this country under the age of 16, and they are here continuously for 5 years. And then there are a lot of stipulations, such as they have to be educated. They have to have, it seems like, the equivalent of a high school degree. They have to be good citizens. They can't have criminal records. Isn't this the kind of person that we want in the United States, and doesn't the president have the right, and I'm not defending him, I'm just asking the question, doesn't he have the right to make that determination under his executive powers?
Look, this president 3.5 years ago came in office, and he knew very, very well that the American public had said no to the DREAM Act time and time again, one session of Congress after the other, and he attempted to do administratively what he could not accomplish.
Yeah, but he could still do it, right? He could still, I'm just asking the question, he could still do it. He could still say, I want this policy, and it happens.
You know, the fact that he can do it and did do it certainly doesn't make it right, and Congress has been rolled over for 3.5 years. On this, and we would hope that Congress would step up and intervene and reassert their authority to regulate immigration. I mean, what we've had is a lawless, rogue administration. Look, we could all agree, let's say we all agree that every illegal alien in the United States deserves a job, health care, and a flat-screen color television. You still, even with that, you still have to be alarmed at the lawless manner in which this president used an executive fiat to institute a massive domestic social program for which there are long-term downstream consequences and lots of current opposition. It was wrong, and it should be overturned. Hopefully, if we get a new president, he or she will reverse it. Congress should certainly intervene right now. One method Congress can use in the House is to defund any money going to implement this.
I understand your point. Again, as the executive, he does have, I don't want to quite go to the point where it's lawless, but I certainly understand where you're coming from and certainly understand your side of this conversation. And it is
Bob,
explaining there's a lot of different sides.
Your passion is a clear expression of what's going on in the country. You know, people have layers of feelings about immigration, but whatever they are, people feel very strongly about this. And we're in a political year. You brought up some things about the election cycle. The reality is nothing is really going to change in the big picture with immigration till after the election is settled.
All right, Bob,
yeah, if there's a political lesson here, it's don't tinker with immigration in an election year.
All right, Bob, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.